What's happened to you? On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Hey, it's Janelle, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. I swear this isn't clickbait. I'm not a fan of The Visitor. Wait, hold your angry comments. This is not a video bashing the episode. In fact, I can acknowledge that it's a really good episode. In fact, there's a lot to love about it. From the guest stars to the performance, right down to the episode's cinematography and score. I can see why it's one of the most beloved episodes of DS9, maybe even the entire Star Trek franchise. Heck, it even highlights the father-son bond of Ben and Jake Sisko, one of my favorite parts of DS9. I certainly don't think the episode is overrated, and I should love this episode. But I don't.
No! Jake, it's over. It's not going to work.
Now, I've talked about my opinion of The Visitor in a couple of videos. Heck, even one just a few days ago. But I have gotten requests to cover the episode for Treknalysis, and I always kind of hesitated since it's such a well-loved episode, and I'm not crazy about it. Hey, everyone has unpopular opinions, and this is one of mine. So that's what I'm doing this Treknalysis. I'm revisiting The Visitor with the goal of giving it a fair evaluation, highlighting what works for me and what doesn't. And who knows, maybe I'll even gain an appreciation for it.
I'm gonna go get us some tea.
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. It was a dark and stormy night.
It's not a promising beginning.
Make it better.
And this isn't even the only DS9 episode that starts this way either. We see a framed Sisko father-son picture, the baseball. Well, it's great to see it hasn't fallen into the wrong hands. And an elderly Tony Todd giving himself an injection. Until there's a knock at the door from Andrew Robinson's daughter. Yeah, the eyes are kind of a giveaway. Actually, her name is Melanie, an aspiring writer and fan of Jake Sisko the writer, now an elderly man living on Earth in the Bayou.
You are my favorite author of all time.
You should read more.
Me whenever I get a compliment.
Oh my god, why can't you just take the compliment?
I think that's just par for the course for any kind of creator in general. We have an idea of what we want to create in our head that rarely materializes the way we picture it, so all we see are its faults. However, you have some fresh eyes look at it, and they'll think it's the greatest thing ever made. Jake has been a writer for many years. Heck, we see him writing in the rest of the series. But strangely, he's only written 2 books, and one of them is just a collection of stories. It's not much considering how long he's been writing.
Why did you stop writing?
I lost my favorite pen, and I couldn't get any work done without it.
Jake decides to answer Melanie's question for real, something that he wouldn't have done if she showed up earlier than today, but now seems like the right time to tell his story. It all began when Jake was 18.
And the worst thing that could happen to a young man happened to me. My father died.
Wait, what? Okay, Jake, you gotta explain this one. I mean, Sisko's practically the main character of the show. His name is first in the opening credits. The bulk of the episode is told via flashback narrated by old Jake, which occasionally shifts to the present where he's talking to Melanie. We get to see how Jake grew into Tony Todd as an adult, and it's not a bad way to tell a story. But it begs the question, does that mean Sirach Lofton could have played young Kern in a flashback episode? Anyways, an 18-year-old Jake was working on a story for weeks, but he hit a bit of writer's block, so Papa Ben decided to take him on the Defiant to view the wormhole. Which is just outside the window, but okay. The wormhole is set to have a subspace inversion which happens once every 50 years. Again, why can't he just look at it through the window? I mean, it's certainly big enough. Is having a front row seat really that important? I know, Ben's just trying to take Jake out for an airing, but considering the events to come, Jake probably would have been better off at home. Heck, even on the Defiant, Jake's still working on his story, and Ben has to instill a little bit of the fear of missing out in him.
It's life, Jake. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes.
Unfortunately, by the time Ben convinced Jake to go look at it, the wormhole's freaking out, the warp core's about to blow, and no one's answering in engineering. So Ben goes to engineering and hold up, where the hell is Miles? Of all the days to leave him at home, you think Miles would be knocked out like that? No, he would get up and finish the job. Through searing pain.
Chief, I thought you were gonna fix the replicators.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Jake followed Ben to engineering against his wishes, but managed to help him stabilize the warp core. And then an energy discharge hits both of them, but only makes Ben disappear.
No!
A memorial service is held for Ben, attended by both Starfleet and Bajoran officer alike. The Starfleet officers mourning a great captain who discovered the first stable wormhole and put DS9 and Bajor on the map, and the Bajorans mourning the loss of the emissary. And Kira took this opportunity to debut her new red uniform during the eulogy.
I'd appreciate it if you wore a standard uniform.
Shut up, Jellicoe! Kira's outfit is fantastic! After the ceremony, everyone on the station takes care of and looks out for Jake.
Especially Dax.
And why didn't Jadzia just adopt him? I know he's 18 and technically an adult who could live on his own, but come on, she's known him longer than anyone. It's perfect! Heck, even Quark's looking out.
I'll get someone else to bring up those cakes. You and Jake go and have some fun.
See? He does care. That's actually one of the great things about Quark's character. On the surface, he's self-interested, greedy, and only cares about profit. But underneath all that, he truly cares about those around him. Even if he has to put on a greedy facade afterwards.
For a minute there, I thought you were talking to me as a friend.
Nah.
Deep in grief over losing his father, Jake hangs around the station for the next several months, torn between going to the Pennington School in the fall to study writing, and staying on the station, even under the threat of Klingon war.
Time passes, and they realize that the person they lost is really gone.
Except that Jake is beginning to see his father appearing and disappearing at random, like a whole Tholian web kind of scenario. As time goes on, the tensions with the Klingons escalated. I guess without Sisko to stare down Gowron, anything goes.
Right now, I've got 5,000 photon torpedoes armed and ready to launch.
Civilians are leaving the station in droves. Except for Jake, who has the option of staying with his grandfather in New Orleans, but he probably just doesn't want to chop vegetables in his restaurant.
You know, if we stay with Grandpa, he's gonna put me to work in the kitchen.
Is that so bad?
Kira goes to talk some sense into him. Even if they weren't about to go to war, she still thinks he should get away from the station for a while. Also, I love the lighting in this scene. Or lack thereof, but the low light only highlighting a couple of details on Kira's and Jake's faces works really well. Sure, they could have had a fully lit scene anywhere on the station, the promenade, the upper deck, even in the wardroom. But this makes for a much more interesting and artistic shot that conveys the sad tone of the episode and Jake's emotional state more effectively than a traditional shot.
But you have to promise me, when the time comes and I tell you to go, we'll do it.
Jake doesn't want to leave the station. It was nothing when he and his father arrived, but his father really turned it into something. He's in the walls of the station, and Jake doesn't want to lose that. But no sooner after the conversation with Kira that, Dad, you're back! And real!
And it's real!
Heading off to sickbay, Chief, where the hell have you been? You could have prevented this whole mess! Or got yourself stuck wherever the hell Ben's been. This could have easily been an O'Brien Must Suffer episode.
It's real to me, Major.
It turns out that the accident pulled Ben into subspace where he doesn't experience the passage of time and lets him out for a couple of minutes before pulling him back in.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
O'Brien, Dax, and Julian get to work on figuring out how to keep Ben here while father and son have a tearful reunion. Jake's feeling guilty that he couldn't tell Ben was alive when he first appeared, and Ben comforts him that it's not his fault and that he's here now. Like I said, the bond between these two is one of the greatest things about DS9. Of course, it doesn't last long, with Ben being pulled back into subspace.
I need to know you're going to be all right.
Don't leave me!
I think the answer to that is no. Jake isn't being allowed to mourn properly. In many ways, it would have been easier if Ben had simply died and Jake mourned for a while, but eventually got into a new routine and found a new normal. As the episode is going to show, Ben phasing in and out with that chance of saving him and ultimately failing means that Jake is losing his father repeatedly, entering into a new state of mourning after leaving one. Only each time he goes into mourning, it hurts even more. No one can deal with that long term, and I'm surprised no one told Jake at any point in the episode to go talk to someone about it. Just not her. Her.
You'd make a good counselor.
I think so too.
Meanwhile, old Jake is struggling to tell his story.
I'm dying.
Gee, this episode is one downer after another. But don't worry, it was just a fake out. For now. With the Klingons even more ornery than before, the Federation decided to turn DS9 over to them, and Jake is forced to leave.
And give up whatever hope there was of seeing my father again.
After drifting around on Earth a little bit, Jake eventually went to the Pennington School, settled near his proud grandpa, published a book, found a nice Bajoran wife, and started to get on with his life. He even invites newly promoted Nog over for a cold one while he gets news about the station. It's a little run down, but Morn's running the bar now.
Talking his customers' ears off and drinking himself out of business all day.
In spite of everything that's happened, Jake's doing alright. Even though the situation is pretty crappy, his letting go of Ben allowed him to mourn and finally begin living again with a career and a wife who loves him.
Coming to bed?
I'm not tired.
Neither am I.
Then why are you going to bed? But before Jake and his wife Corinna have a chance to make little Jakeettes, an unannounced visit from the in-law.
Do I have any grandchildren?
Yep, we know what's important to Ben, not getting out of subspace limbo. Grandkids.
And don't think because I'm not around much that I don't want grandchildren.
Better get cracking there, Jake. The man needs grandbabies. Jake is preoccupied that a medical team from Starfleet arrives in time, but Ben wants him to stay and talk with him. They don't have any time to waste.
Jake.
You gotta love how Sisko is able to quietly signal to Corinna that Jake needs to be alone with his father. And they both love him so much. Heck, major props to both Tony Todd and Avery Brooks. They have that strong father-son bond that Avery Brooks and Sirach Lofton share, even though this is the only episode where Tony Todd plays Jake. It really speaks to their skills as actors. Jake, once again, feels guilty that he gave up on Ben. He went on with his life when he should have been trying to find him. But Ben, the proud father who wants what's best for his son, assures him that he's proud of what he's accomplished and the life he's made for himself. Before once again disappearing, freshly opening Jake's wounds that have just begun to heal. Again. So after Ben's last poppin',
I hate the poppin'.
Jake contacted Jadzia to figure out what's going on. And it's kind of strange that Jadzia's not in this episode more, considering it made a point of saying she felt responsible for Jake after Ben's accident, and she's hardly in the episode. Dax determined that there has to be a link between Ben and Jake, and there seems to be a connection between Ben's appearances and the wormhole's activity. The next time he appears, Jake would be an old man, so he decided in the meantime to give up writing to study subspace mechanics in the hopes he could figure out how to get his father home. Unfortunately, he was so involved with it that after a while, Corinna ended up leaving him. Which had to make her a social pariah on Bajor if she was married to the son of the emissary and left him. The episode doesn't say what happens to her, but I'm speculating here. Jake eventually found a way to recreate the accident, and Captain Nog managed to pull some strings to get the crew back together and get the Defiant in order to get Ben back. Heck, even Worf helped out by getting the Klingons to let them hang out near the wormhole. Probably threatened to expose the whole Duras thing. With everyone aged up and in the all good things uniforms, I guess that timeline didn't officially happen, but they still got to keep the uniforms, the gang's headed back to the wormhole. And Jadzia lived to a nice old age, Julian's got a kid, and where's Miles again? Dang it, I want to see Miles' old Brian. Well, at least we get Julian and Jadzia acting like they've been married for about 50 years.
Latest paper or your new backhand or your kid's science project.
I can dream, can't I? Jake manages to make contact with Ben, but gets pulled into subspace as well.
What about those grandchildren we talked about?
Ben's asking the real questions here. In fact, Jake doesn't really have any good updates for him. Karenna left him, and he gave up writing for basically a failed attempt to bring Ben back. Looking out for his son, Cisco begs Jake to let him go. He still has time to make a better life for himself.
Promise me you'll do that. Promise me.
Indiana, let it go.
Once again, another great scene between Avery Brooks and Tony Todd. It's one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire episode. Jake's obsession to get his father out of subspace cost him most of his life, and Ben's trying to stop him from throwing the rest of it away on a lost cause. Both characters have anguish in their voices. Jake's over his failed attempt to rescue Ben, and Ben over his son throwing his life away.
No! Let go, Jake. If not for yourself, then for me.
The Defiant manages to pull Jake out of subspace, but in tears as Jadzia goes over to comfort him. Like a mother should, why didn't she adopt him? It's dawn in the present, and Jake is just finishing up his story. He did indeed go back to writing, and even used writing new stories to work through his grief. He goes to get Melanie a copy of his newest book, but instead, she asks for his original manuscript, with his notes written all over it.
I want to study them so I can see the changes you made.
Because you want to be a writer someday.
I do like the dynamic between Jake and Melanie. They almost have a father-daughter relationship going, even though they've only met the previous night. It's nice to see Jake impart wisdom onto the young, hopeful, aspiring writer. He even gives her the same advice Ben gave him at the start of the episode.
It's life, Jake. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes.
It's life, Melanie.
And you can miss it if you don't open your eyes.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Melanie notices that Jake keeps saying there's no more time. Well, Jake figured out that the link between him and his father is at its strongest when he appears. So, theoretically, if he cuts the cord when it's at its strongest, it could send him back to the point of the accident.
Your father's coming here, isn't he?
Wait, Jake, what are you up to? Ben once again makes his appearance and is happy to see Jake got his life back on track. But Jake is struggling to get through the conversation. And after reading a cryptic dedication in Jake's new book, Ben sees the hyposprays on Jake's desk.
It won't be long now.
Jake, no!
Jake was long-term poisoning himself so he would die at the exact moment Ben was with him to send him back in time. And this is what ruined the episode for me. I hate that that's what Jake resorted to, especially when you consider that Star Trek is very much on the side of preserving life. Worf wanted to die when a barrel bounced off him. Riker refused to help speed things along.
I think it's despicable.
Kern wanted Worf to send him to Sto-Vo-Kor. Sisko was pissed. Heck, even in Half a Life, when Timothy went through with the resolution, it's not presented in a good light. It's presented in some Prime Directive bullshit, but no one's really happy about it. Heck, this ending could have even gone in a couple of different directions. Janeway traveled back in time to save Seven and Chakotay. Alexander tried to save Worf's life by training his younger self. Why not ask the prophets for some help? You got some pull there, Jake. Send a note through a Stargate during a solar flare telling Ben to dodge the discharge. Hey Dad, make sure you dodge that warp discharge on Stardate 12345. Jake. Not to mention, Jake reset the timeline where everyone else had a pretty good life. Don't forget, Quark managed to get his own moon, his lifetime dream. Nog made captain. Jadzia lived a full and long life and didn't run into a possessed Ducat. Don't get me wrong, this timeline without the emissary sucks, but the other characters had decent lives. Again, the needs of the many.
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the few.
Heck, Jake gave Melanie his notes and manuscript knowing full well the timeline was going to be reset in a couple of hours and won't even exist anymore. I get it, this ending almost has a Shakespearean quality to it, but man, I hate that we're here.
My sweet boy.
With the timeline reset and armed with the knowledge to dodge the discharge, Ben dodges it and saves Jake, preventing a tragic future for the both of them. Now, as much as I ranted about how we got here, I will say this. The final shot of the episode is top tier and was a good choice to end the episode on.
You okay, Dad?
I am now, Jake. I am now.
And that was The Visitor, and yeah, my opinion hasn't really changed. It has so many good things going for it. Tony Todd, Avery Brooks, emotional performances, the bond between father and son, great cinematography, heck, even the music is great. I didn't even touch on the music, but the score throughout the entire episode is arguably some of the best in Star Trek. It has all the ingredients of a great episode, but that ending ruins it for me. It might sound a little silly to write off an episode because of the last couple of minutes, but the ending can make or break a story no matter how good the rest of it is. Heck, I've had movies or even video games that I enjoyed up to the ending, and the result is low replay value for me. Now, to be fair, The Visitor is a step up from that. I've watched it a couple of times, and each time, I can acknowledge what works in the episode. But every time that ending rolls around, I'm once again reminded of why I'm not a fan of it. As good as the rest of the episode is, to me, it's all leading up to an ending I don't like. And of course, no hate to anyone who enjoys the episode. It is a good episode, even if I'm not a huge fan of it. So what did you think of The Visitor? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you like me in that you're not crazy about the episode, but can recognize it as a good episode? What did you think of the ending? Did you love it or did you hate it? And what are some popular Star Trek episodes that you simply can't get into? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
It's life, Jake. You can miss it if you don't open your eyes.